Welcome everyone to our very first family map night. Hooray!
Yay.
This is in celebration and observance of GIS Day. What is GIS, you ask? Well, we have some very special guests that are going to answer that question and more for you tonight. So to kick it off, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Jay Metzker.
Hey, Shannon, thank you. Hi, everybody. Happy GIS Day in the GIS world. It's a big day where we can think about the things that we do and what's important to us. My name is Jay Metzker. I am so happy to be here. This is such an awesome accomplishment to put this night together. And we're really excited to kind of get into GIS a bit and have some fun with MapSwipe and really understand the different levels that we can all participate in, especially on the humanitarian effort to make a difference. In a minute, you'll hear from Jessica Signa and Isaiah Spencer, who are both colleagues of mine on different levels, and I'll let them explain. Briefly about myself, I am the GIS manager for the Rhode Island Department of Health. I've been there for almost 2 years, so that does include a spot on the COVID GIS workforce. It's been a very interesting 8 months, and I hope that all of you and your families are well. It's been quite an experience. For me, just briefly, GIS snuck into my life. I thought I'd be a science teacher, actually. It's why Shannon and Peter and I get along so well.
You can come join us anytime you want to come into the science teaching field.
They're looking for jobs.
Yeah, that was my plan, but I honestly heard about what this GIS was. And just so everyone knows, Geographic Information System. So the idea of looking at data geospatially or with some sort of an anchor to the real world. At the Department of Health, it's been incredible, just a really dynamic work environment. And then in my spare time, I am also the proud president of the NERISA Board of Directors. And what I want to do is just briefly show you our website so everyone knows where we are and how to. What's NERISA? Yeah, NERISA stands for New England, and we're New England URISA. URISA is Urban Regional Information System Association. And URISA is an international GIS organization really fighting for the rights of GIS professionals and GIS as an organization. And we're New England. So we actually cover the largest landmass still in all of the chapters. We are an affiliated chapter of URISA. And the NERISA Board of Directors has a wide berth. We have about 16 people on our board. It ranges from the president track, which I'm on, which is a 3-year commitment, to at-large members who are there to really help and support. We just did an amazing conference, NERISA Day 2020, and so we'll send around this for later on when we get to some information, to send some information out. But NERISA has been amazing for me to really begin the process of understanding what GIS means to me outside of a work environment. I think a lot of times people get to their work and they're really busy with work. And I'm really lucky to be able to actually take my interests outside of work and let it feed my interests inside of work. And I just wanted to show you this website. So this is our Rhode Island COVID-19 data hub site. So this is actually a GIS application. The website is an application, and then we've embedded certain pieces of data inside of this application. So this is actually the dashboard they use behind the governor. I'm going to pass it to Jess in a second, but Jessica was really the first person to stand up the first dashboard back in April when I stood up the hub site and we worked together, and Jessica was activated to my team. So Jessica really did a lot of the first data visualization for this whole site. These are all a mixture of either GIS applications or just general data applications. And it's just been an incredible process working with Jessica. And Isaiah Spencer's here. Isaiah is what we call the Department of Health a scholar, or what most people might call an intern. But Isaiah came on this summer as a COVID GIS intern, and he kicked so much butt. We invited him to stick around for this semester. And I know he'll talk about this, but he's getting into the flu vaccination application with GIS as well. And so then we've taken this hub environment for GIS and we've created different pages that really are more content specific. But let me pass over to Jessica. I'll let her explain a couple of things. and she can give her take on this as well. So Jess, do you want to take it from here?
Sure.
I'm going to stop you, and you should be all set.
Do you want me to talk about the hub site, or do you want me to go through mine?
No, I think do what you're going to do. And maybe if you have time to just mention, about the hub site, that'd be great.
Great. So thanks everyone for having me, and happy JS Day. I'm so excited to be here. As Jay said, we are colleagues. I also sit on the NERISA board. I'm a member at large. This is my first full year. Really exciting to be a part of it. My day job is with the Rhode Island Secretary of State's office. And I have a 20-year career in data and GIS, and using data and maps to tell stories, to help the public really understand data at a simple level, to help make policy changes, to help make changes in their neighborhoods, in their communities, to really, I call it, and it's been called democratizing data. So getting it out to the people and helping those people understand how to do that. So since I preach so much about telling stories, I am going to tell my own story through some GIS. So this is my brief career history, how it started and how it's going. So I grew up on Long Island. I graduated in 1997, and I decided to go to college here in Providence. I studied there for 4 years, and I concentrated in public and community service. And I learned how to go out into the community and learn about what challenges are having, what successes they're having, and it really inspired me to think about that on a data level, how to help people make those changes through data. So I started to intern at the Providence Plan in downtown Providence. And this is where I had my aha moment. So I had the great fortune to learn how to do GIS mapping at my internship. And what I was doing is I was looking at data related to where students lived, how students did on their tests, and their incidence of lead poisoning. And we were able to see across the city the disparity or the differences from where students live, how well they did, and their unfortunate lead poisoning or not. And one of the coolest things is that this was my aha moment, that JS can really be used to help make a difference, is because I was able similar to Isaiah, we presented our data to the Rhode Island Department of Health. And from there, they started really looking into the issue and thinking about how to make policy changes. This led me to a career down in DC. I was there for 6 years, and I was actually the lead mapper. So I trained 50 of my colleagues over my years in time there. I worked on data, all sorts of data, healthcare, housing, education, you name it, we worked on it. It was really a great experience. After that, I moved back to Providence. I loved it so much, and I came back to get my master's in public policy. And from there, my first internship hired me back, and I did mapping every day for people across the state. It was really great work. From there, I moved to a few other smaller nonprofits doing the same sorts of work, working at the Providence Public School Department, and most recently landed at the Secretary of State's office last year. So just really have a wide variety of different jobs at nonprofits, in the public sector, using all sorts of data and telling stories and helping people learn how to make improvements in their community along the way. So, and just so everyone knows, this is the GIS tool. This is the same sort of tool that Jay was showing, and I think Isaiah might show later. So let's talk a little bit more about how it started. So Jay, and I'm sure Peter can tell you that the early days of mapping were static maps. So you would make a map on your computer, and then it would get put, this is a copy of a report that I did when I worked at the Urban Institute, and this is a PDF copy. And you can see there's static maps in here. So here's a map I made in 2006. You can't click on it. It's hard to read, it's small. It tells a great story about students and where they attend school, but that's pretty much it. You can't really see the nuances of the different communities. Same thing with a map I made even in 2010, where we can see here Scituate has less than 1% total incidence of lead poisoning, but you can't really get much further into it. It's a static map. So fast forward another 10 years, and this is where we are. This is a really cool map that I am really proud of. I made looking at voter turnout in 2016 and 2018 general elections. So now we get into the really cool GIS. We can scroll in and out. We can see Scituate. We can click on it. We can look at 2016 data, 2018 data. We could compare how many people voted in the general election each year. And then what I think is the coolest thing is you can zoom in, and now we're looking at precincts. So we can see that there are 3 precincts in Scituate, even though the colors are the same, and you can see all the different turnout. Same thing, Providence has a little bit more nuances, so you can see the difference in where people voted. So that's one really cool mapping tool that I've used. And then we also use GIS to help orient voters to get to where they need to go for dropping off their mail ballots, for example, in the last election. So if we zoom in, you can see what was really great about this tool is voters could click on it. They could type in their address and see which locations were closest to them. And then they could also get all this information and even see a picture of the drop box so they know exactly where to go. So this is another way that GIS can help us, just like typing in Google and getting directions. This is another way that GIS can help us and help people in the public. And the last thing I'll show you quickly is this really fun tool that I created for the census when we were helping the public learn a little bit about the 2020 census. You can see in the background here is the image from 1939, and the color image is from 2019. And so you can see the differences from these aerial photos from about 100 years ago almost to today. And you can see the highway is there and not there. And I've done something special for you all. And I've done this for Scituate schools. So if we click on this, we can see this is what Clayville Elementary School looks like today. And this is what it looked like in 1939.
You can still see the orchards. It's so cool.
Yeah, so what's really fun about this too is you can also see how GIS folks used to stitch together the photographs. So you see all those lines. That's because those are actual pictures that have been stitched together versus what we have today, which are these big, massive photos that you can't tell the stitching anymore because we've really improved. And so the same thing, this is Hope Elementary. So you can see how much the neighborhood has changed.
And you can see how much reforestation has happened over that time too.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for doing that for us.
You're welcome. And then the same thing, North Scituate Elementary School. You can see the differences here. And then the high school. And this one I really liked because it's not here.
That's amazing.
It's really cool. And you can see it falls right on the line there. So these are some of the fun tools that I get to do as a senior data analyst at the Secretary of State's office that really help the public engage with the information that our government houses. I'm going to stop sharing right now. I'll just talk a few more seconds. So as Jay mentioned, we worked together, we collaborated on that, the COVID website. And for me, it's really important to get information out to the public in an easy to use way, that we're not just a filing cabinet for data, that people can go out and use that information to help them make decisions. Not just about policy, it is about the leaders and policy folks, and our governor and our Secretary of State, but it also is all of us. And it's students, their parents, leaders in the community. It's really important, and I think anyone can get in on this. So I'm really proud of that COVID website too, because I feel like it's really accessible for folks of all ages. And so, yeah, it's just really great work. And what I really love about being on the NERSA board and just my work over the years is fostering the next generation of GIS users. They know so much more than I do. I feel like a dinosaur in my work. So I'm really excited to introduce Isaiah, who is the next generation and is gonna take us even further. And I'm just really, really happy. And then for everyone else, really great future ahead of us in GIS. On to you,
Thank
Isaiah.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jessica, for introducing me, and thank you, Shannon, for allowing us to talk about why we love GIS and why we think it should be good for everyone to use. So just a little bit about me. My name is Isaiah. I am, like Jay mentioned, I'm right now a Rhino Scholar for the Rhode Island Department of Health. I am also a senior undergraduate studying geological sciences at Brown University. So some of you might be wondering, just from that, what I major in, how does he know about GIS if he's not majoring in or concentrating in geography or anything GIS related? How did he get into geological sciences, or from geological sciences into GIS? So through geological sciences, I took a class called Introduction to GIS, one of the very few classes, sadly, at Brown, which I hope they can expand more into the GIS department. But it's one of the very few and very well-taught courses at Brown that I took through the geology program, where I got to learn about ArcGIS Pro. And that's a subset of what ESRI has as one of their platforms in order to create all our maps, to create all our web applications that we make for what our interests and what our jobs are. So this is actually the first time ArcGIS Pro was being taught at Brown. And so the professor, Lynn Carlson, was actually learning it as well, and having a blast trying to learn it. And we were all learning at the same time. So we're all getting a good experience, first experience out of it. So I'm just gonna show you all my first project.
So wait, you were learning together and the teacher wasn't the expert?
Yeah, that is correct. We were all kind of at the same base level, so it was pretty cool, kind of being all at the same level. So, sorry, I don't know if this shows quite well, but this is
I can see it.
great. Okay, so I had done this project on child safety zones in New Bedford. So those are areas where the New Bedford City Council deemed where sex offenders cannot be able to be permitted in these areas. And honestly, I need to do more research on how they don't allow sex offenders to be in these positions. But in general, it was interesting because this actually wasn't the first project I was going to do. I was actually looking at wanting to do potholes in Providence or in New Bedford, kind of in our region, because there are quite a lot of them. And I was interested if any GIS could be used to help out ways to better more efficiently fix these potholes in our areas. But then there wasn't a lot of information on potholes. So then I wanted to do crime data, but the New Bedford crime department didn't allow us to access the data. So this was available to access. And there were a lot of tools I used in GIS, which I can talk about here, but I would have to explain it, and that would take more than 5 minutes. So, but this is kind of the project I did, and this was the start of my aha moment. Really, where it took off was when I started to talk with Jay and started to discuss options with interning at the Rhode Island Department of Health. And so when I started to come in the summer and started to work with Jay, that's when I started to work with a lot of the COVID-19 data. And I worked with one of his colleagues, Olivia Reed, and we worked on basically collaborating all this COVID-19 data for Rhode Island, trying to put where there were hotspots in Rhode Island, trying to create story maps in order for the public to see where these hotspots were. And so there was a bunch of stuff that I was working on in the Rhode Island Department of Health. That was just really exciting to me. And I started to learn more about tools in ArcGIS Pro, other tools in ArcGIS Online, how to collaborate my project with other people in my group. And so it's a lot on mapping, but there's so much more that you can do in ArcGIS that is again more than a 5-minute talk that I can't go over, but it's so awesome. And so one of the other things I wanted to show as well, this is a rough draft of what I'm doing this fall semester as a RIDO scholar, and this is working with flu vaccination sites with Jay and the vaccination team. So this is a web application that basically, if you click on an address around Rhode Island, it'll help you to see what flu clinics are around your area so that you're able to get information on those sites, and so that you're able to be able to access these flu clinics and get information about them. So over here, I have the legend, and as you see, the yellow points are school clinics, orange points are private pharmacies and wellness-based clinics, and red points are public pharmacies and wellness-based clinics. So I'm just gonna put here, no bias here, Brown University. I'm not sure if the address will pick up, but I'm just gonna put the first one here. And as you can see, it'll circle around the points that are at the top here. You can change this radius, but it was at a 3 radius. Now I changed it to 2.28 mile radius. And it'll show, oh, I just went away. Maybe that's because I messed with that. Oh, here we go. So it'll show the sites that that are around this area of interest, and you can click on all these, and it'll highlight the one that you're interested in, and it'll give you all the data that we've put in manually with an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, and it's all readily available here. So that's something else I've worked on that I've really enjoyed. The final draft will look a little different, but those have been the two things that I've really enjoyed. And again, this is just like scraping the surface of, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here. This has just been scraping the surface of GIS that I've done, and I can't wait to continue to dive deeper into GIS. And I hope this just amuses everyone who's on this call, because I have loved it ever since I got to know it. And yeah, it's been a great experience. So that's my little tidbit on GIS, and I'll hand it over to Shannon or Jay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's really awesome. And the sky's the limit with what we can do with the data that is now publicly available. And these tools like ArcGIS just are a way for us to kind of grab strings from lots of different data inputs and pull them together and visualize them and access them in ways that we never could before. It's so powerful. And there's so much good that can be done with these tools through citizen science, citizen mapping projects. And the tool that we wanted to share with folks tonight is kind of a great starting point for that. I was introduced to some of this humanitarian OpenStreetMap stuff thanks to Jay and his invitation to be part of a panel for the conference that he ran a few weeks ago. And he kind of re-inspired me to get back into some of this GIS stuff. So I thank you for that, Jay. And Pete was on the panel with me. Before I invite our guests, our attendees tonight, to turn to their mobile devices and open up the Map Swipe app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, you got that's your cue. You got a couple more minutes there to try and download the app. Jay, I wondered if you could talk just a little bit about humanitarian mapping and OpenStreetMaps.
Yeah, so again, we had an amazing event about a couple weeks ago now, and the humanitarian OpenStreetMap. So through URISA, right? So we're New England URISA. URISA also has another organization called GIS Core. And GIS Core is focused on trying to organize and facilitate events to help with this OpenStreetMap. Now, if you think about when people need to give humanitarian aid to anywhere in the world. So for our conference, we had an area in Botswana that we all focused on, and we did this thing called a map-a-thon where they would give us a grid or an area to look through, and we would put a square around buildings or a circle around circular buildings and actually create the beginning process, the foundation of GIS work. And it's actually the first step in them then coming in behind us and getting efforts to map areas so they can understand need, so they can understand, areas in Botswana and places in the world that people haven't gotten to mapping yet. But mapping becomes really one of the principal public health tools. Back in the day with Snow and his map, right? Looking around cases of malaria in London, and they finally realized that the key to everything, when they started mapping out where people were sick and where they lived, they found out that there were certain wells that were contaminated based on who was getting sick. But until they looked at that information geospatially or with a location, they just had information that this person's sick and that person's sick, and 200 out of 300 people are sick. But then when they can start looking at the relationship where people were getting sick, that really helped them understand what's going on. Fast forward 100 years later, we can now put in our efforts. So we sat around for, I think it was 4 hours total, and we all just worked on mapping Botswana and checking for buildings. And what happens is that becomes the framework for moving forward. And I'm very, very excited about this event because I think it builds on what we've done, but it also becomes a primary filter for them, because they gave us grids and areas based on if there were buildings or not most times. So the work we'll do with MapSwipe now is it'll ask you if you see a building, I'm pretty sure, or I think there's a structure. And this will help filter down the work that others have to do and really narrow down, because the thing I always say is in GIS, you can save time. And we all know that in business, if you save time, you save money. I'll take that one step further and say, if you're saving time and you're saving money in public health, if you save time, you can also save lives. So we're helping cut down the amount of effort that it's going to take to get humanitarian aid to these areas. And I just want to thank you all for participating. And I'm really excited to launch this concept because, we're all virtual right now. And to do these things, it just means putting your mind to it and putting some effort together. And so again, I just want to thank you all. And Jessica and Isaiah, it's been awesome working with everyone, Shannon, Peter. And lastly, before we go back to this, I know everyone will have our email at some point. If you're on LinkedIn, definitely find us on LinkedIn. We would love to answer any questions about what we do in more depth, either after this call at the end, or we're always available for, just to have a talk about things. But the thing I'm most proud about is anyone who's listening here, my aha moment in GIS came when I was 33 years old, and luckily I caught on it before I got out of school. We're hoping that you all can understand GIS a little better after this event, and that you'll know that term GIS moving forward. And I really think in this world, we're all moving to geospatial understanding. Everyone's using Google Maps, and this is only just the beginning. So I'll say thank you and pass back to Shannon, and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, thanks so much. So I got a text from one of my friends that's watching online here to ask where you get that app. So this is on your phone. You're going to look, if you have an Android device, look in Google Play. It's a free download. If you have an iThing, then it's in the Apple Store. So it's called MapSwipe. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and show you a really short introductory video, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound. I know how to make sure that the sound is shared in Google Meets these days, but I'm not as sure with this. So can you guys see my screen with the video on it?
We can see it, and I think the trick is when you go to share your screen, there should be a click option that share the video audio as well.
Okay, so let me redo that then. Screen share. Share computer sound. There we go. Thank you for that. All right.
Swipe left, swipe left. Right, so I know our YouTube fans are clamoring for us to make another episode of MapMen, but first I thought I'd tell you about a little project I've been working on. It took quite a lot of blood, sweat and tears, but I think you'll be impressed.
That's very interesting.
I spent the last 6 weeks in South Sudan. It's the world's youngest country, you see, so very little of it has been mapped. So I thought I'd head out there with my ranging poles, my trundle wheel, and start to map the place.
Really?
I mean, obviously it was quite a huge project for just one man to undertake.
Ooh, swipe right on that.
At times I did get pretty lonely.
Really?
And I did actually get very ill. It was really quite awful. Jay, I'm trying to tell an important and emotional story. Can you just leave it with the dating app for one moment?
Finished.
What?
Papua New Guinea.
What do you mean, finished Papua New Guinea?
I've mapped it. Well, I helped.
What are you talking about?
Me and a whole bunch of mappers from around the world have been using a new app called MapSwipe. It helps humanitarian workers like MSF navigate unmapped parts of the world. So if there's an emergency, they can quickly identify where help's needed.
Like in South Sudan?
Exactly. When mapping large areas and much of it's uninhabited, skilled mappers can waste a huge amount of time scanning for settlements and roads. MapSwipe uses satellite imagery of countries like South Sudan and breaks it up into manageable chunks so people like you and me can easily identify which bits need mapping. Easy.
So, I didn't need to go to South Sudan?
Not really.
I could have just downloaded MapSwipe.
Yep. And you could be saving lives. Anyway, how did you get on with your mapping project?
Don't worry, it doesn't
Come
matter.
on, let's have a look.
No, please.
Ah, well done, Mark. And hey, who knows, you might even finish it in 1,000 years.
I'll probably just download the app.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's a fun explanation of MapSwipe, and now I gotta stop that before it starts playing something else on me. So the app is really straightforward to use. There is a little tour when you first go in and make your account and log in and start doing it. But it gives you on your screen, it'll give you 6 images with a box around them. And what you are doing is looking for identifiable features in that, and the project that you select to start working on, it'll tell you if you're looking for roads or buildings or either. And it's pretty straightforward. If none of those grids on your screen have what you're looking for, you just swipe to get to a new set of images. If you do see the feature that they're asking you to identify in the particular project, you tap once to turn the box green. If you're not sure, you tap it twice and it turns yellow. And if the imagery is bad, you click it 3 times and it turns red. If you click the wrong number of times, it cycles through that green to yellow to red sequence. If you tap too many times and you have to get it back to a different color. And then once you've done everything on that set of images, you go on to the next one. And so like Jay said, this is going to save time for the professional mappers who sit and do the more detailed work that requires more skill and training. And so I'm going to just kind of keep talking here while folks at home are hopefully playing on their phones and actually doing some MapSwipe activities like Jay is doing there. And I'm actually going to pick on Peter because Peter put something in the chat a little while ago for the panelists to see about Haiti and about how community-based scientists and mappers have been able to contribute in real ways to some pretty tough situations. So I'm going to pass it off to Pete for a minute.
First, I got to unmute. Yep. Okay. Hi, I'm Pete Stetson. I've been doing GIS since, let's see, 2004 or so. I was a high school teacher in Coventry, Rhode Island, and I started using GIS with my earth science classes and my environmental science classes. And we went from there to using it now. I do trail mapping for the town of Hopkinton. So we go out and work with all their land trust properties. So there's all different kinds of applications and uses that you can do with this. GIS is really a fun educational tool. One of the first times I heard about this MapSwipe or the open source mapping that was done was with the earthquake that occurred in Haiti. They went and they looked at aerial photographs, and they just started mapping where streets were, so that people that needed to get medical supplies or water or food from one part of the city to another part of the city, they were able to actually look at and see whether the street was passable or not, and be able to route the people around to a different way to get to where the people needed those critical supplies. So this is an activity that goes on worldwide, and you can participate, and you can help out, and you can help other people in other countries, as we all get to learn how to do map swipe.
That's super. Thank you. And so the community mapping or mapathon event that Jay was describing earlier that we did as part of the conference that he organized, that was kind of like a next step or next level of mapping skill. So in MapSwipe, you're literally just looking for anything that looks like a building or a road, depending on the project that you're doing. The platform that we used with the conference that Jay ran, we had to look at a little more detail, a little more closely, and we had to outline buildings in the squares that we were assigned when we logged in to volunteer to help map. So it's kind of, like you said, the next step or the next layer in adding information that is actionable to those maps that people working in the field, whether it's in healthcare, disaster management, whatever it is, have access to more information. So, and in the process, you know, we are able to contribute, we're able to learn, and both of those things feel good. So I'm going to invite you to keep swiping while you keep listening. I am going to turn it back over to Pete. Pete talked about, you know, teaching at Coventry High School and using GIS in some of his classes and with environmental science and Envirothon. Pete actually introduced me to GIS in my early years in teaching at Situate. I wanted to get involved in Envirothon when I started teaching environmental science. And so I went and followed Pete around for a year to see how he did his Envirothon coaching in Coventry, and tried to emulate what Pete was doing. And I brought GIS into the classroom in Situate and started doing it then. So Pete, I'd love to hear about what it is you're working on now, because I know you're still kind of a GIS champion and still trying to train teachers and students around the state, even though you are in that blissful stage of retirement. You're still working hard for all of us.
Thanks. One of the projects I've been working on, this is going into the 5th year. I've been retired for 3 years. So even before I was retired, I started working on this. It's a story map competition, and it's open and available to any Rhode Island student, whether they are in school, public school, private school, homeschooled. Any of the students from 4th through 8th grade and from 9th through 12th grade can get involved. And the end result is that you create a story map about something having to do with Rhode Island. And those story maps, like the one that Jessica showed you, those story maps would be set up and would be entered into a competition. One student can work individually, or up to 2 students can work together to collaborate on a particular map. And then they can take that map with Shannon's blessing, because we're talking about Situate here, and submit that to the state committee for evaluation. The top 5 middle school maps, 4th through 8th grade, the top 5 middle school division maps, each of the students, if there's 1 to a team, gets $100. If there's 2 to a team, each student gets $50. And we select the top 5 statewide middle school maps, the top statewide high school maps. The winning map for the state in both of those divisions gets sent to the Esri Corporation, which is out in Redlands, California. In the past, they've had the opportunity to get an all expensive paid all expenses paid trip for a parent, for the student, and for the teacher to go to the Esri Users Conference in Redlands, California. Actually, the last one was in San Diego, California. And so they have a chance to go there and see a lot about how GIS is used in all different kinds of ways. I went in 2009 out to a training session at that point that was called Teachers Teaching Teachers GIS, T3G. And I had been using GIS for about 5 years when I applied to go to this conference. And when I got to the conference, it just blew my mind with all the other things that were able to be done. I'd been doing some mapping in the woods in the area around the high school and been doing some projects like that, but just seeing some of the other things that teachers are doing, both on the middle school, high school level, but also in the junior college and college level. Looking at those projects and seeing what they were doing was amazing to see. So Shannon invited me to come and talk to you a little bit about the story map competition. It's create a story map. You have from February, which is when you would enter, until the beginning of May to create a story map. And then we would present the winning 5 middle school map makers and the winning 5 high school map makers with their $100 checks later on in the month of May. The NERISA board through Jay is really helping me push this out to a lot of schools, trying to get a lot of people get involved. Last year we had 2 maps produced. One was from a student at Wheeler High School Division, and one was from a student at the Hope Highland School in Cranston.
Well, I can tell you, you're going to have a lot more than that this year, because my friends in grades 4 and 5 STEAM, and some of them are on this call now, they're going to be doing some story mapping with me. So that's really exciting. I wonder, Peter, I also have some folks on the call from other states. Now this is, Esri does this nationwide, right? So if they were in another state and they wanted to get their students involved in story map competitions for their state, can you point us in that direction?
Well, if they go to the K-12, let me share my screen. And let's see. This is, hopefully you'll all be able to see this.
Yep.
Come on. Okay, so this is a place that people can go to get, teachers can go and students can go to get some additional information and some help on their story maps and help on learning GIS. I'm gonna go.
And you put this link in on the resource page that we're gonna hand out at the end, right?
No, I will though.
Okay, super.
I can put it in the chat as well. But if you go down through here, there should be, and see, here it is. This is the story map, about the story map competition. And these are all the schools and clubs. So you don't even need to be in a school. If the school doesn't have it, a club can get a copy of this as well. They're free to every K-12 school and club in the United States and Canada. So lots of people can get involved in this. As you go through the story map here, it talks about the rules and regulations.
Now, do I understand that a school should have an organizational account this year?
That's
for
correct. They need to have an organizational account, because students will need to create their story maps using the organizational account logon that their school would set them up with.
Okay, if you're able as well to share that in the chat, I can add that to the resource page that we're going to.
Okay, if they go to this K-12, let's see if I can get back. If they go back here, and we get into this helping educators again. There's a document right here's the flyer for the clubs and schools. that they can download. It's got the links on it. You can automatically get to that. That's one thing. And then here's a request for the organizational account. So if they just go to this this K through 12 organizational location, they can get all the information that they need.
And I will say for the teachers and coordinators that are on the call listening, it's going to remove lots of barriers if you are able to get your IT folks to follow the protocols for a single sign-on.
Correct.
So that teachers don't have to worry about managing usernames and passwords for students, because that's a big obstacle and a big time suck for a lot of folks.
So let me see if I'm gonna go back here to the competition site. And as we scroll through this story map, we should get to a point here where we change. Okay, so these are the states that participated in this story map competition. And Rhode Island is one. You can see right here that Rhode Island is one. So any state that has a color in it is a state that has a story map competition committee. And the committee needs to set up a website, needs to put information together. Certainly, if you go to the Rhode Island website, let's see, which one is it here?
And maybe we can bring Jay into this conversation, because I know some of the sessions that I went to at the conference, Jay, or one of the speakers was talking about the certifications that GIS professionals can seek, and some of the outreach that they do as part of maintaining their credential. And so there are GIS professionals all over the country that are looking to help teachers. And so they're out there, and organizations like Narissa can help you connect with them. And
Absolutely.
as yeah, if you want to speak to that for a minute.
Yeah, so the GISP, or the professional license of GIS professionals, it's run by a group called the GISCI, and really what it's doing is it's both a test and a portfolio. Now, I don't have mine yet. I went on record during the conference saying I'll have mine by next year, and I'm going to do it. But what it's doing is it's really bringing legitimacy to the GIS career. And it's also keeping the standard high, so that, if I show up and say, well, I'm a GIS professional, and someone else shows up and says, well, so am I, how do you really know what these people know? Well, if I have a GISP credential, they automatically know, okay, this person has certain amount of hours put into this and a portfolio and has taken a test. It's very similar to the idea of architects and engineers, where you have to go through a professional certification, and it's predicated on time served in the industry, so that not just anybody can say, yeah, I'm a licensed architect. To piggyback on what Peter was saying, the story map contest is so important to Narissa and myself and the board and Peter, that Narissa has agreed to come on and really help to facilitate this. So we really appreciate all the buzz that we're getting, because to us, it's all about connecting people to this industry. And, first of all, I'm having a ton of fun with MapSwipe. I hope everyone else is. I think this is so cool. But I think to myself, the reality is I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they could do this with me. They make a note in the beginning of MapSwipe that it's not like you're the final end all be all of this, that other people are going through it as well. But the idea for me is, in California, they teach GIS, I think, in kindergarten. I know we're starting earlier here. I know, raise the bar, Shannon, get the bar way up there, shoot for the moon, would you? But the reality is, and I've given GIS discussions to my daughter's class when she was in kindergarten. The reality is, some of these concepts, like drawing a square around a building, it's a lot of people can do it. And with the right oversight and the right training, we as adults make GIS really complicated, because it can be. But I think MapSwipe is a great example of, when I'm looking at these images, I'm actually using the GIS education that I have. You don't need to. But when I see things like a squiggly line or a shape that looks like a square that looks man-made, I'm thinking to myself, that's probably an object. So just so you all know, if you hold on the image, it also zooms in for you to get a better look. I love this idea of different varying levels of being able to work and help and do these things. I just think it's incredible. This map swipe is a game changer. And I'm going to definitely do it with my kids because I'll be a GIS homer and tell you that I think satellite imagery is beautiful. I think it's really interesting when you can look and see development or fields, or like you said, Shannon, earlier, orchards. How do you know it's an orchard? Because you know the area. And when you look at it top down, it's like, okay, those are trees. And so it's getting your mind going from 2D to 3D to, to planimetric and isometric. And, I'm using, in my mind, this is GIS, but it's also really basic and really fun. So Shannon, I applaud you for thinking outside the box. And I have to tell you all that the best, when we did the Mapathon, Shannon asked a lot of great questions. And the one thing was really, not wanting to overwhelm people with this initial step. This is an awesome first step. I really appreciate this, Shannon. It's really great job.
Yeah, thank you for all your support. I do want to toss it back to Peter for a second. So Pete is not only helping to manage this Mapathon competition and bringing all of us together, but he's still teaching teachers and training teachers, and he's out there and available for school districts that want to bring him in and offer some kind of training. I just wanted to give Pete a couple minutes to talk about what's available that he knows about and can do.
Cool. Okay. Yes. When I retired, I formed a small company called Educational Mapping Services. And one of the things that I've done the last couple of years was run a workshop called The Power of Data. And the workshop was a 5-day workshop. It was an opportunity for teachers all across Rhode Island to come and to learn about using GIS within their classroom. They created a lesson that they were able to present to their students, utilizing all the resources that we developed for them. So the opportunity for me to go into a school and work with the teachers, even on, I've done it on a couple of common planning time when teachers have gatherings after school, do it for approximately an hour and a half, and get the teachers to at least be able to log on and go through some of the resources that are available to them. And again, speaking of resources, I'm gonna go back here 1 second to my screen. And
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off before.
Nope, that's all right. I want to tell some of the teachers and some of the students that are there that there are already developed lessons. There's already developed activities that they can go through to learn how to do GIS. And even on the elementary level, these are for the 4th grade and up. These are called geo inquiries, and these geo inquiries are standards based. Here's one on ecosystems and biomes. So it depends on what your 4th grade class is working on, but they've already got the standards associated with them. They've already got the maps associated with them. They've got questions. They've got directions on what the students can do. These are PDFs that you can download, bring them into Word, and you can edit them. But it's a way. The time required 15 minutes. Upper elementary. The maps are already right there. You would just click on the map, and it's now going to go out and open the map up, and you'll be able to start to go through and looking at the content that's here, and it starts to give you information. So as you pass through these online activities, all they need is an internet access to be able to.
So they don't have to already have the account.
Right now they don't have to, but if you look at this, it does ask for them to sign in, but you can do this activity without the account.
Okay.
So teachers can work through this, and it's just another set of resources that are available. If I go back, let me see if I can get back to where the geo inquiries, and they're for all levels. There's a whole book of activities that you can work on with the students. Mapping Our World is what Shannon and I worked on way back in 2009 to be able to go through with Lynn Malone, who was a pioneer in GIS education way back when. And Isaiah, Lynn Carlson was one of the first people that got me involved in GIS at Coventry High School, because she was the tech that was working for the town of Coventry, doing all the GIS mapping for there. And Lynn and I still stay in touch. She sent me a bunch of her activities that she was doing with ARC Pro, because I was working with a student at Wheeler School. And so she gave me some of the activities she was doing so I could work with that student doing ARC Pro. And that's one of the other features that you get when you get an organizational account. You get access to a wide range of different kinds of technology and resources.
So this is Jess again. Lynn also is one of the first people to teach me GIS.
Wow.
I learned it on the job as an intern, but we actually took a couple of days and we went up to Brown, and Lynn helped walk us through ARC 3.0.
And we're on 10 point something
10
now.
point
Just so
something,
people
yep.
know. Yeah.
10.8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a really, really great way to kind of wrap things together and tie things together, because it's a great community. And everybody that I've met that does GIS is always so willing to help others to kind of bring them along to the next step, because there's just so many opportunities. It's really beautiful. And on that note, I am going to open up the poll that is kind of the little survey at the end of our event. And this is where our viewers can enter to win a license for GIS Pro, I believe. And it's going to give you access to all kinds of training materials. So if you're a student or if you're an adult and you want to enter for this, I'm going to try to open that poll right now. I had pre-populated it and now I'm not seeing that option. So that stinks. How do I do this?
We had issues with polling too. I'm trying to think what the trick was there.
While I'm doing that, I'm going to ask Mrs. Serdechny if she can share our takeaway handout with our attendees.
And Shannon, while you're doing that, I can also say this, Peter and Jess mentioned names that I just love these people. And Lynn Malone, I worked with Lynn with the Connect initiative with the through Rhode Island GIS, and I was a geo mentor for that. And to get back to Shannon's question earlier about the GISPs and how people can get involved with helping educators, helping institutions to get to where they need to be, NERISA is starting a platform where we want to try and connect teachers with GIS professionals. So we're definitely going to be having more of that coming out in the next year. And the other thing is that this industry and this group really is special. We're all willing to do whatever we can to break down those barriers. One of the best things, though, and the thing that Peter brought up, it was actually a big part of our NERISA conference, was the work that Esri and National Geographic are both doing to set content up for educators. We really wanted to try and take the guesswork out of it. My wife is a librarian and was an educator. When I first started doing like geo mentoring, I tried talking to her science teachers about GIS, and the first answer was, "I'm interested. That sounds great. I have no time for any of this." And we all, believe me, I get it. It's with all the IEPs and all the extra work. Being a teacher these days it's God's work. And then if you look at what it would take to actually install a new curriculum with new technologies, it is daunting. But I can tell you, Esri has their Learn platform. National Geographic has a lot of information and criteria and curriculum. And NERISA is really trying to help break down those barriers again of knowing where to find these things because they're there. But just like everything, I might do the most amazing GIS work and it's incredible and it blows me away. But if it never goes any further than my local server, if no one knows about it, then what good is it? So we're really trying to break down those barriers, like I said, and really trying to let you all know that there is content out there. We had a teacher on the National Geographic talk from Maine, and she talked about every day she has her kids come in and do a geo inquiry. And to start the day, let's do something mapping. And for what Peter showed you, I think it's a great example of it's dynamic, it's interesting, it's really engaging. And again, to Isaiah's point, these things are all just scratching the surface. So it's just incredible. I love this. I love MapSwipe. This is like my favorite thing now. I'm gonna be in trouble. I'm gonna be up at night, like under the covers with my phone, like if my room's glowing, I'm gonna be like map swiping all night. This is unreal.
So you're looking here at starting in the 4th grade and maybe even younger. And just think in 8 years, when you're a senior, what you're gonna be able to do, what you're gonna be able to accomplish once you learn how to do GIS. GIS is used in so many career areas, in so many parts of the state, in state government, in environmental companies, all different kinds of uses for the data that's there. And as far as the schools are concerned, all the data and all the information is free. So there's no cost at all for you to get an organizational account and get access. And Rhode Island has curated data. Esri has put curated data on there. So don't ever worry about getting a hold of the data that you need, or not being able to get aerial photography, or not being able to do any of the stuff that's there, because it's all free and there's free access to it. And as you can see, there's a bunch of people here that are more than willing to help out, to come into schools and work with teachers, to come into schools and work with classes, to help even on weekends, even during the summer, right, Shannon?
Yep, that's for sure. So please join me in thanking all of our presenters for their time. This was a super event, and I'm going to spread this recording far and wide. I can't get the poll that I pre-populated with questions to work, so I'll just say this to the folks that have hung on with us till the end here. I put my email address in the chat there. If you would drop me an email with your name, and that way I can get back in touch with you, so you can enter for a door prize. As I started to say earlier, when we scheduled this event, Esri, a leading provider of GIS software worldwide, gave us some licenses to give away to participants in our event. And so I will get back in touch with you and tell you how to access the door prize after I pick names out of a hat. And then for the students that have hung on with us tonight, please also email me and let me know. And I have some Situate swag that I will send your way, because you stuck it out with us here tonight. I don't want to keep the kids up late. We have school tomorrow, but thank you all so much for our first ever, which I hope becomes an annual event, GIS celebration. So thank you, everybody, and have a great night. Stay safe.
Thanks, guys. Happy GIS Day. We'll see you soon.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Shannon.
Bye, thank you.